Welcome to the EchoCast. I am Bon, and this is a podcast talking about all of the news, reviews, and speculation around the video game world on all platforms and almost any genre. This week, I will be talking about the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase, more Starfield stuff, Modern Warfare 2, and more. A few things before we get started. If you are listening, please subscribe on your podcast provider of choice. And if you're on Spotify or iTunes, please rate the podcast right now. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the bell icon in order to be notified of future podcasts and my other videos. Last but not least, join the Discord to chat about the podcast, gaming news, and anything else you like by clicking the link in the description of the podcast or the video. Gaming news. Let's get started. So the first one here, probably the biggest one, is the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase has been announced and confirmed for June 12th. So obviously this is a big deal, at least if you're an Xbox fan or if you're a PC player. The nice thing about Xbox is that when they have games come out, for the most part, that's a good thing for PC players as well. And so I think what's interesting is that the assumed, big game is going to be Starfield, right? So that they're probably mostly going to show Starfield, talk about Starfield, understandably, right? And that's what I want to see. I bet there's a good 20-30 minute segment finally showing gameplay, finally talking about what the game's going to play like and look like and what we're going to do, maybe a little bit of the story. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm excited to see if we're going to be like walking around our ship, or if I'm curious if it's going to be like a No Man's Sky where you have like your ship, even though in that you can technically get bigger ships, but that's, or if it's going to be like a Mass Effect thing where you have like a big capital ship that you like walk around and you can like tell it where to go. So we'll see. But Starfield, just so excited. I mean, that's the game I'm the most excited about right now. Mostly because I'm hoping it fills a Mass Effect void in my life. So that's obviously exciting, but there's lots of other stuff. I am really hoping that we get to see some gameplay of Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga. We did get a endgame trailer, quote unquote gameplay during their last big showcase, which looked insane and obviously was like in engine, and I think had a little bit of gameplay in it, but not much. So it'd be cool to see that. I'm hoping that comes next year. I was really hoping this year, but I think they would have like made a big deal of that by now, but we'll see. There's also the Redfall is supposed to be coming like in a couple months. That's a Bethesda ZeniMax project that we know it's going to be like a cooperative zombie hunting thing. But that's all we know. We've seen one CGI trailer and that's it. I don't think they would announce a delay during this game showcase. The game showcase is supposed to be this big, like everything's amazing and we all love Xbox, like this is great. So if they were going to delay that, I would think they would have done it by now. I'm just gonna throw it out that it's probably not gonna be like a huge project. It's probably gonna be like a AA type game. It wouldn't surprise me if it's even like a free to play. And I'm excited to see that. I don't expect to see anything from Perfect Dark. I We'll be curious if we see anything about Forspoken. I think that's one as well that we could see something from. What was the Outer Worlds 2? We might get like another teaser for that, but I'm not expecting anything big. I imagine that game's still 2 or 3 years away. State of Decay 3, I believe, would be a great to see something, even if it's just like a trailer, something fairly simple. They're winding down development on State of Decay 2, I believe, and I have a feeling that there's a relatively small team that's been on 2 for quite a while. Even though they've been putting out some big projects, it seems like they've been getting help from outside contracted studios. Like they redid a bunch of their maps and stuff like that. I have to imagine that they're using a lot of outside help now with a small core team in their own studio, and I would imagine that a pretty big chunk of that studio for a while has been working on State of Decay 3. So hopefully they have something to show us. That a big part of the Unreal Engine 5 announcement of it coming to final release was that while these games, Hellblade, State of Decay 3, Perfect Dark, all these games have probably been developing on the the beta version of Unreal 5 for a while. Knowing that engine is in a finalized release at this point is a big deal. That means that that they that they can really start locking things in. So beyond that, that's probably the biggest thing that I can think. There's obviously probably a bunch of other stuff. There's the Indiana Jones game. We might see something about that. Probably a bunch of stuff I'm not thinking of. I still think, and I think this announcement would be a couple years away. I still would not be surprised. I don't think EA is getting acquired by anyone. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if they acquire. But man, I really think that next Mass Effect game is gonna be a big restart button for BioWare, and they released Mass Effect 1 on Xbox only, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if here in 2 years during the Xbox showcase we get some kind of announcement, probably not of exclusivity, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they try to pull Mass Effect 4, whatever it's going to be called, if they tried to throw it on Game Pass or something. I don't think we would see an announcement like that already. We know so little about that game, and all indications are that it's still so early in development that those conversations are probably happening at this point, but nothing that we'll hear about for a while. But I do expect to see some other big third-party announcements of either day one exclusivity or Game Pass appearances, things like that. Yeah, we'll have to see. Speaking of Starfield, they did put out another Starfield video. It was talking about the soundtrack. There's also been some supplemental information that's come out, where one of the composers shared a list of a bunch of songs they used as inspiration for the soundtrack, and it's really cool. The soundtrack that we've heard so far from Starfield sounds just immaculate, and if Fallout's been consistent with anything, they've been consistent with the music and things like that. So I'm highly excited to see what they're gonna do with that. There wasn't any big gameplay reveals, or I think we saw some concept art we hadn't seen before, but it's they're gonna hold this close to their chest, basically until June 12th, I think. I regretfully joined the Starfield subreddit, and it is rough. It is a rough experience. It's you can tell that that a lot of those people have been around probably for years, and they're frustrated. You can tell that they're really hurting for more info, and yeah, it's It's weird there. So I don't suggest it if you want me to be totally honest. Um, I do not suggest checking out that subreddit if you want me to be 100% honest. I think it's kind of toxic, and after June 12th, it'll probably be better when there's a bunch of real info out there, but I would stay away for now. A quick story, Modern Warfare 2 has been confirmed. This has been rumored for a really long time that the next entry in the Call of Duty franchise this year, 2022, was going to be a sequel to the Modern Warfare kind of reboot a couple years ago. Now, spoilers, if you finish that story, you'll know that the Modern Warfare from a couple years ago, 2019, I believe, was like a prequel to Call of Duty 4 and the other Modern Warfare games. So I'm assuming this game is going to further get the story, the prequel, closer to Call of Duty 4 is my guess. Or they're like doing like a metaverse thing where it's gonna have its own, I don't know. They did something funny with that where they made sure like the weapons and stuff they used in that game were all guns that are used today, and a lot of the attachments and all that are stuff we use today, but I think they were kind of sneaky about not adding anything that would really blatantly date it. That Modern Warfare story, that game from 2019, I mean, I love it. I think it's great. And like the house clearing mission was just so good, and it was so cinematic, and it was great. So I wish the Call of Duty just normal multiplayer would hang around longer. I wish, the focus wasn't so much on Warzone and the BR and all that, because I could really get into it, but it seems like it just falls away so quickly. But that single player, I'm happy. I mean, I'm personally happy to pay, my $60 to play Call of Duty on, to play the story and then play, 15, 20 hours of multiplayer. So that's me. I've always enjoyed their stories though. But yeah, so Modern Warfare 2 coming probably this summer. I assume December. I don't think they'll try to do November. I think November is going to be Starfield's month. We could see God of War try to compete there. I wouldn't be surprised if God of War stays away as well, though. I bet they'll probably go to December. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, Modern Warfare, more story coming. Overwatch 2 beta testing. So I'm not a big Overwatch fan, but I still do think it's notable to talk about that beta that's being tested. I watched a pretty good amount of the testing of people playing it. Hero shooters aren't my thing. From what I saw, it seems like people who are fans understand why it's a sequel, right? For someone who is oblivious, I don't get it. I don't understand, if I have to be totally honest. It just looks like more Overwatch. I know they change some of the how many characters of certain classes you can have, and that it seems like people are happy with a lot of those changes. They rebalanced and changed up most of the characters. I don't know. It just looks like a big DLC to me, but I think the people who care know whether it is or isn't, and will spend accordingly. So I will trust them to make that decision. Activision Blizzard voted to approve the sale to Microsoft. So this was kind of a formality, but in this big acquisition, the stockholders for Activision Blizzard had to vote whether to join or not. It was something like 90-something% voted yes. That was expected because these people are going to make a whole bunch of money off of this deal. Now it has gone to and is going to regulators. I believe the FTC is who, the Federal Trade Commission is who will be the main people kind of looking at this deal. I think it will pass. I've seen a decent number of pretty reputable people say they don't think it's going to go through. I think it will, because some people who I also, seem like they're respected and I care about their opinions, have been like, I think it's going to go through, but I do think there's going to be stipulations. I think that there's either going to be some kind of requirement to not platform first party everything, or I don't know, that maybe they won't be able to take every proper, I don't know. I think there's going to be stipulations that they're going to have to do, but I think it's going to happen, and I kind of hope it does for Blizzard's sake and Activision. Big yawn. Okay, I even bore myself. Some quick hitters here. Skull and Bones had a decent amount of game footage leak. This is a Ubisoft game that's been talked about for like 5 or 6 years. I think my NDA's up. I saw and I believe played a playable build of Skull and Bones in 2018 at E3, in a behind the scenes Ubisoft party thing. I was impressed. I thought it kind of sucked, but some people were definitely excited about it. And then it's just so my story for Skull and Bones is that I don't think the game is like this anymore, so I don't think this information is relevant anymore. But when they pitched it to us, they did like a thing where they talked to us about the game or what they were trying to do. And what they described was essentially the Division's DZ, except pirate boats in the Caribbean. And so I was there as a Division fan, and this was when Division 1 was out, 2 wasn't out yet. And I raised my hand and asked the developers, I'm like, hey, like, you've got this team at Massive and Red Storm, and your concept sounds extremely similar to the Dark Zone. The way, like basically the idea I think was that you were going to have these ships and you were going to be able to just attack anyone. So there'd be other players in your world and you could work with them to do missions or take down like AI or stuff like that, or you could fight them and take their booty. And I remember like saying, but it was like a level 2 could get attacked by like a level 30 or something. And I remember asking, I was like, hey, like, you have this great, these people who have experienced the pitfalls of this kind of a system, and they were so offended. It was really awkward. I don't remember who the devs were. I would say there's a really good chance they're not there anymore. But I remember very clearly them being so offended. Like, why would we ask them? We are making our game. And to a point, I get that. But what they were proposing sounded like a shit show. And from what I've seen in this leaked footage and what I've heard is that concept has been tossed completely. And this game is going to be something more along the lines of like Sea of Thieves. At least that's what it looks like. Funny enough, after that leaked footage came out, all of the sudden, Ubisoft announced that there's info coming. So I actually do expect a Ubisoft Forward announced pretty soon. They may try to jump ahead of Xbox, but I don't know. It would probably be in June, but it could be late May. I could see that too. So we'll have to wait and see. The other thing with Ubisoft is they announced this Project Q thing that I guess got leaked, and it was really funny because they're like, well, you've already heard about it, so here's Project Q. And it, from what I've seen and seen some people talk about, it's if you're listening to audio, I'm like holding my head. It's Fortnite. They're trying to make Fortnite, and they're literally like 5 years late or whatever, however long Fortnite's been out. Like, they're literally trying to make a Fortnite clone, and I'm sure it will be unique in some ways, and it'll probably, I mean, let's be honest, it's probably going to just be worse. I mean, I hope it's the best game ever made, but like, I mean, history tells us, right? And so like, I'm just so confused. I just don't know what they're doing. Is kind of how I feel about it. I don't, I'm just confused. But there it is. And it was so funny how like the way that they announced it officially was like, well, you've already heard about it. And I was like, I have my thumb on the pulse, pretty good, I think, for gaming stuff, especially Ubisoft. I mean, I have so many followers and people who I follow who are Ubisoft related. I hadn't heard a word about this, about the leak. I don't think anyone cared. Like, but I don't know, just another Ubisoft showing up 4 years late to the party, hyperscaping again. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to be the biggest thing they've ever made. If I was a betting man, I would probably say it's not. To get in my required BioWare / Mass Effect and Division news, I've got 2 topics here. So BioWare, they have a QA studio that's going to unionize. And that's a pretty big deal. I don't think any other employees at EA have unionized at this point, and this could definitely be a push towards that. And I think we're hitting a point where game publishers are gonna have to kind of start just like, hey guys, I wish you wouldn't, but you're probably going to sue, like, okay, instead of just like firing everyone and shutting down departments. I think this stuff has become too visible. I think the issues with crunch and stuff like that have gotten too severe to just ignore it. And I've seen people from all parts of the industry, developers to QA to community managers to journalists, to basically saying, like, if there's anyone in gaming who needs a union, it's QA, because these you're literally talking about the pretty large number of people whose job it is to figure out what's wrong with these games while they're being developed and before they hit shelves. While I think there's a point to be made about, like, wow, they don't do a great job because every game that comes out is busted, I think that's a fair criticism to make, to be honest. I also think it's just hard to recognize how, like, even from 5, 10, 15 years ago, games coming out today and being developed right now are just so infinitely more complicated. And so I don't think it is necessarily an excuse for games not being as polished, because games, I think, are being rushed out faster. I think games are being expanded too quickly. So they should do their jobs, obviously, but I think that QA job, the job for QA, it has become maybe even more impossible than even for I don't want to say developers, because QA is part of development, but then the directors of the various other parts of developing the game. So this is probably good news. The headlines were all, oh, Dragon Age 4 QA department is unionizing. This is very likely the same studio that's going to QA Mass Effect next, whatever the next game is. So at the end of the day, it basically means that these people won't be required to work 60 hours a week, will hopefully earn a good wage if they aren't already, and will hopefully get a bunch of other great benefits that will keep people around, because the best employees are typically experienced ones, especially in QA. Then the last topic here is the Division 2 title update 15 PTS Phase 3. So this is the phase. So the first 2 phases were implementing new stuff. This third phase is kind of them taking what they learned from the first 2 phases, fixing what they can, and throwing it out one more time just to have people take another look. I jumped in. I couldn't start a match of Countdown because there was no one playing it. I have to imagine this phase won't be played too heavily, because I think people are kind of like, okay, I know what's coming. I got my fill of Countdown after like an hour or 2. I don't think it's it's not dynamic enough that it's like, oh man, I need to hit some Countdown again. And then I know they're working hard, and I know this stuff sucks, but there's literally like a whole gear set that's being introduced that you can't test, because the gear set causes delta errors. It causes the game to not work. So you can't wear it, but there's still a loot box you can pick up from a vendor that's free, that has all of the gear in it so you can test stuff, and it still has this gear set that will break the game. So, so that's that. I don't know. I'm excited. Some story stuff leaked for this upcoming stuff for Division 2 that looks really cool, and I'm excited about it. I will play the next seasons to check out all of this new story stuff they're doing. And the gear, I guess. I'm sure I'll play a few rounds of Countdown. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that this is the most exciting thing I've ever, the hype is pretty mid for this. I'm excited to have something to do in Division. I'm assuming I'll just keep replaying Mass Effect and sucking at Tarkov and being excited for other games, unfortunately, but that's where we're at. So here we are. I expect this PTS will probably only last a few days. I don't think they're going to be trying to like dig in too heavily with this. So I suspect this PTS phase 3 will end next week, and then they'll probably take 2 or 3 weeks to finalize the build to push to all platforms. And then there is like an approval window in there that they have to do with Microsoft and Sony. And I would say I would say by the end of May, we should probably have title update 15. And I pray on my lucky stars that there's some surprises coming when that update drops, because I think it's going to be a pretty underwhelming patch for a game that needed a big splash. And I think over the next year or two, they'll probably put out a bunch of cool content for Division 2. I think there's going to be a pretty tiny audience there to receive it, and that's okay. Something tells me the Division 2 has made enough money that they don't need it to like be a huge blow up to come back, but I bet they wouldn't say no to that. But I don't expect that to happen. I'll dabble, and I think a lot of people will, and we'll go from there. Moving to listener questions. If you have your own questions, you can ask in the Discord. You can ask on my Twitter. You can ask on the podcast Twitter. You can email me. You can ask in the YouTube comments. There's a whole bunch of ways you can ask questions or suggest topics. And the first set here is from M88 on Twitter. So this, I'm going to use this as kind of like I think we've got a pretty big handful of questions here. So I'm going to kind of hit these really quick, or as quickly as I can. The first one is Ubisoft takeoff rumors, ? I talked about that recently. I wouldn't be surprised at all if one of these big investment firms gets them. And I think that there are possibilities of that being good and bad, and we'll just have to wait and see. It's not Vivendi. I don't think it's a nightmare like that. I also don't think it'll be a quote unquote good thing like it would be if it was Xbox or Sony, even though either one of them also have some pretty big downsides in my opinion. So I think it's going to happen. I think Yves Guillemot and his family are probably happy to sell off this big giant monstrosity of a publisher at this point. And yeah, I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to be one of these investment firms. My favorite PS1 game. So the funny thing about that question is it would probably be one of the Madden games I can't even imagine the name of, the NFL, American football games. Or I couldn't tell you the name, but there was a demo on a demo disc I got from like a gaming magazine when I was a child that had some game on it that I remember playing it. I probably really played it like 3 hours, and my memory tells me I played this game for like 1,000 hours. It was a demo, so it was only like a 15-minute demo, and I played it over, and I was a little kid, like little kids love repetition. So I don't remember what the game was, couldn't tell you. I remember it was a shooter game, and there were these gems that you had to get. That's all I can remember. So that was probably my favorite PlayStation 1 game, but I would probably go more in on the Madden. There was a Madden football game, I believe. It was a football game where I think it had like college and pro teams. It might have had high school teams on it. It was weird. It probably wasn't even Madden. It was probably some generic football game. And my dad and I played football games for many years through my childhood, through multiple systems. So yeah, so that's definitely the one that jumps to mind. The next question is, did you go straight to Xbox, skipping the PS2 generation? No. So in high school, I started high school in 2002 to 2006 and had a PlayStation 2 somewhere in there. I got one and had that. My favorite game on the PlayStation 2 was NCAA Football 2006 because it was an RPG and it was amazing. And they still, the sports games kind of still are RPGs, but not like this one was. That one was great. NCAA College Basketball 2006, same thing, but basketball in black. Obviously like the Grand Theft Auto games and stuff like that, but black, if you look back at it now, it's not that impressive, but for the time it was so far ahead of itself, with a lot of things that were coming in shooters and video games. And so I was a big PS2 guy. I took my PS2 to college in 2006, but my roommate had a Xbox and my PlayStation 2 died, I think, like within weeks of getting there. So then I got, actually, no, I never had an original Xbox. That was his. And then by the end of that year is when, so probably 2007, I think, is when the 360 came out. And then basically everyone we knew bought 360s, including myself. This was also when I got my job at GameStop. So that definitely, they kept a lot of my checks, to say the least. And so I pretty extensively experienced PS2 and got into Xbox kind of late in its gen, the OG Xbox. And then I've been Xbox ever since. I actually owned a PS3. So when I graduated college in 2010, I think I sold my 360. I had like an Elite, and I think I bought a PS3. And because all I remember is I played FIFA on it and Red Dead Redemption, which was like, the game. So, and then at some point, I sold the PS3 and bought an Xbox One day one and had that. And then I've been Xbox ever since. I was curious. I was somewhat interested in getting a PS4, PS5, but we'll see. I don't know. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but we'll see. Next question from MAD8. Do you have any interest in Nintendo games? Tons. I just have no interest in buying a Switch right now. I would love to play like the new Mario Strikers. I would love to play, the Zelda games, because I played those a lot. I had a Super Nintendo and a Nintendo when I was a kid. I also had a Sega Saturn, which was a CD Sega. So yeah, definitely interested in Nintendo games, but not enough to buy a system is where I'm at. So maybe one day. Then we get into the Division questions, of course. Division 1 PvP or Division 2 PvP. I think they both suck. I think there were moments in Division 1 PvP that were a lot of fun. 1.7.1, I think. It was before classified gear sets, after they fixed the one-shot seeker mine. That was fun PvP. Not good, but fun, for sure. Division 2 PvP was fun for like a minute when it came out. But a combination of people figuring out the metas and the abuses, and Red Storm just ending development on the DZ and Conflict really kind of killed that. I really think Conflict in Division 2 had a lot of potential, and it's a bummer that Red Storm bounced and decided to go work on Heartland, it seems, instead of sticking with Division 2. Whatever Heartland becomes, I still worry that the franchise would have been better off had they stuck with Conflict and the DZ and maybe developed like a lighter, like Survival 2.0 mode that was just like survival but better, instead of whatever this Heartland thing is that seems like it's this big project on its own. I really think that in the long run we will look back and say, man, they should have just kept working on Division 2, but here we are. Do you think the new Division 2 game will use the new engine? Nope. I think Ubisoft is going to switch all of their games to Snowdrop, and I think we will be seeing everything from Ubisoft on Snowdrop for like the next 10 years. I'm saying, like, I think Far Cry will switch over. I think Assassin's Creed will switch over. I think the new Splinter Cell game, I think that's already been announced that it's on Snowdrop. I know I don't think Division 2 will be on a new engine, or Division 3 if they make it. If it's no guarantee, but I would say it's likely. Yeah. Do you think the next Division will be on current gen systems only? Yeah, it would have to be, because I don't think the next Division game will even start development, if it happens, for 2 more years. And then you'll be looking at there's a chance the next Division game will be a cross-generation game between the PS5 and PS6 and the Xbox One or the Xbox Series and whatever comes next for them. I think the two platforms are going to have very different features. I think there will be a PlayStation 6. I don't think Xbox will ever have like a next gen. I think they're just going to, every 4 years, put out a new system that's more powerful, like PC, basically. But either way, I think people need to realize there's a good chance a Division 3 may be 5+ years away, if it happens. But yeah, do you think next Division will take place in another country? Nope. I think the Division is going to be an American game. I think that's going to be a game set in the United States, because I think there's still too many locations in the United States unexplored. The whole West Coast, the whole South, a lot of the Eastern Seaboard, the entire middle of the country. I think if they make a third game, it needs to be winter. It needs to be in Chicago, and that would be really cool. And I think they should drop the looter part of the game. I think they should make it a really awesome single player experience that maybe has some co-op and maybe has like a tacked on PvP mode. And then they let something like a Heartland become their PvP project, but we'll see. If you were a pro esport player, what game would you be playing? Probably Call of Duty. That's the only game I can think of that I could have ever. We did some, oh my God, what was that website called? There was a ranking, like a website where you could set up matches, and there was leaderboards, and you confirmed things. And my buddies in college with Call of Duty 4, we did that, and we got ranked really high. We were in the top 5 or 10% at one point, and we were pretty good. I was probably the worst one, honestly, but I held my own pretty well. And yeah, so if I would have ever been pro at something, it probably would have been Call of Duty, but I was not. I was not good enough for that. Then the final question from M88, if someone would remake one of your favorite games, what would it be? Future Soldier, Ghost Recon. I would want a Ghost Recon Future Soldier 2. I don't consider Wildlands or Breakpoint Ghost Recon games. I consider them games that have a Ghost Recon name on them and none of the soul. I think Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 1 and 2 and Future Soldier were the last Ghost Recon games, and I would love to see like Red Storm get a Future Soldier 2 or something, be able to kind of, because the Division, if you played Future Soldier, you'll know the Division 1 and 2 are the spiritual successors of Ghost Recon. Wildlands and Breakpoint are like a thing that the people who made Rayman decided to make, and they're fine. I know some people like them, but I don't. I think they're bad games, especially Breakpoint. I think is a atrocious game from a mechanical, from every level. And so I would love to see a Future Soldier 2. Thank you so much for the questions, M88. Master Prime, naturally, has a question for us from Discord. What franchise would you like? Did you ask the same question? Well, there you go. The same answer is there for you, Master Prime. I'm sorry. M88 beat you to it, and I didn't realize it. So Future Soldier, for sure, would be not just Ghost Recon, because I know it's technically still alive. Kind of. It's an NFT now. But yeah, Future Soldier for sure would be what I would want to see come back. Content updates, nothing big. I'm basically only committing to streaming on Saturday mornings. If work calms down, if everything else in my life chills out, maybe I'll start streaming during the week again, but I just don't have time. I do have some cool announcements though. I am now a BioWare Gear ambassador. That means you can get 20% off if you use a code for me. So you go to the BioWare Gear website. So this is Dragon Age and Mass Effect stuff. I think there might be some KOTOR stuff on there too, but if you use the code BWBAUN, BWBAUN, on any item that's not like already discounted, or I think pre-orders, it doesn't work, but otherwise you can get 20% off. It's a good deal. There's links down in the description of the video and of the podcast if you want to check it out. That code will work until the 5th of May. And at that point, I should be able to request a new code. So if you ever look in the descriptions of my videos and podcasts, you'll see updated codes that I'll try to keep updated. Because that 20% is a great discount. It at the very least offsets like taxes and shipping for the most part. So good code, check it out. And then the final little story I think is worth throwing out there. With Elon Musk buying Twitter and me seeing a bunch of people fleeing the platform. I think Elon Musk is a big turd, and I think he's really bad for lots of things. But I don't plan on going anywhere. Twitter and the follower base I have and the people I've gotten to know on there, to me, are more important. I think Twitter is what you make it. And I think I've made my Twitter a space I enjoy being in. And so unless something goes real wild, I'll still be around. So you won't miss me. That's what I have for you. So this is a shorter one this week, and that's fine. There's not anything huge. I suspect in the weeks upcoming, there may be some stuff. I think I may finally have the time to start trying to pursue some interviews. So I would love to get some BioWare people on here. Maybe some Division stuff once that comes out. I've already had a massive dev working on Avatar say that they would like to come on once that comes out, which I think is this year. I think that game's still supposed to be coming this year, so we'll see. So stuff like that, but I would love to have some BioWare people on here. The problem is that I almost waited too long, because now that next Mass Effect game is probably far enough along now that there's a lot that they know, which means that they can't say much. But we'll see. We'll figure it out. So be on the lookout for that. And that's where I might wrap it up. So thank you for checking out the podcast. If you want more, please be sure to like this video if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel on any platform where you're listening, be notified of new videos by hitting the bell on YouTube, and check out some of my other content. I've got Division videos, I've got Mass Effect videos, I've got Starfield videos, I've got videos on videos. So check them out. You can find me all over the internet as Bond Diesel, including on Twitter at Bond Diesel, and then I'm on YouTube and Twitch and Instagram as well. Please check out some of my EchoCast and Bond Diesel merch at the link down below to the Streamlabs merch store. You can also find that on my Twitter. And that's all I have. So until next time.